Welcome, 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 and good morning. It is Tuesday. It is the 2022 version of September the 20th, and you're back here with me, Sean Butler, and my co-pilot, Bugsy Malone, as we bring to you episode 49 of Tottenham Walks from the canal network of Surrey. Beautiful walk today. Now, I was going to talk to you guys about my second, part of the analysis of the Leicester game. And I thought, if I keep doing little small intervals, it's going to be a little bit disruptive. And I'd rather just get out the stats and the detail and the data and go through everything with a bit more minutiae, because there's so much valuable insight that I have with this tool, this paid tool that I now use, and I'm going to show that to you guys later on a live stream. It takes all of the things that you would see on SofaScore or FB Refs and goes into a little bit more detail, a lot more detail in some areas, and I thought it would be really cool. I've gone through it yesterday and I've got all of my notes, and I will bring that to you hopefully today. I hope around 3 o'clock. Keep a lookout for that. That's one of the reasons why you need that notification bell on, because my scheduling is difficult, so I just go live whenever I can. What am I going to talk to you about today? Well, I'd rather talk to you about a research note that came out from something called, I think it was the CIES Observatory. Now, I feel a bit silly because I can't remember the actual name officially. I'm going to put it into a text overlay right now, and I'll put the link to it in the description so you can check out all of the data that I'm about to drop on you. Now, the purpose of this report is a 10-year insight, a 10-year research project into how much inflation has been added into the transfer window, the European football economy, and which teams are responsible for it. And in essence, what the research does is it looks at the valuation, the official valuation of every player that was transferred at the time of their transfer. And I'll be honest, I don't know, it didn't say in the report how they knew that, whether it's their own personal algorithm that's figured it out, or whether it's borrowed data from somewhere else, I don't know. But so they take the official valuation of what the player was worth and then compare it to the official fees paid that were released in the financial results of all of the clubs that were analysed, and I think it was a complete European-wide analysis, and then figure out the difference, whether teams overpaid or underpaid their relative valuation for those players, and by how much, and then make a list, like a Premier League table of a stack rank of who's overpaid and who has underpaid. And you may or may not be surprised to know that the team that has paid the most and officially overpaid the most as well of all the teams that were analysed from 2012 until 2022 is Manchester United. They paid 1.36, I think it was, billion pounds in that period, and that was £208 million more than the official valuation of those players over that period. That was for 36 players as well, right? 36 players. So bear that in mind as I now say to you, the next 7 teams in order of who overpaid the most for the players that they bought over that 10-year period was Juventus, then PSG, then Aston Villa, then Chelsea, then Arsenal, then Everton. Oh, I'm sorry, before Everton, after Arsenal, before Everton, there was Rennes. And all of those teams were only nominally less than the £208 million overpayment. 206, 204, 202, etc. So, not a huge difference, but they are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are the top 8 teams. The bottom 3 teams, here's the kicker. The bottom three teams were Brighton were third bottom, Tottenham Hotspur second bottom, and Wolverhampton Wanderers were the team that were the most economical and efficient with the money paid versus the valuations agreed on those players that joined their club over the 12 years. Over the 10 years, sorry. To go into Tottenham's data specifically, Tottenham spent 951 million euros since 2012, or 833 million pounds if you want to use the King's money, which is the 6th highest spend of all the Premier League clubs. So we're the 6th highest spend in the Premier League, and that basically would probably put us in the top 10 in Europe. And the 833 million pound that we paid was for players that in total were valued at 840 million pound. So Tottenham actually made a value paid versus value laid profit of about 7 million pound. Only Wolverhampton Wanderers were like I say, were more economical with their money. Not only that, guys, right, but that money that we spent was for on average for 44 players. So 830 million pound for 44 players on average. I'm not going to give you the specific maths, I didn't write it down, but it's about 19 million pound per player, right? Simple maths. And on average over that 10-year period. Arsenal, who spent more than us, spent that money and also had a massive overspend on valuation. They spent all their money on only 33 players. Manchester United did theirs over 36 players, and Liverpool were the same. Now, what does that information tell you, right? Well, again, like everything at the moment with the Tottenham fan base, there's two ways that you can interpret it, and there's two ways that the fans will push narratives, and I think it will depend on how you feel about Daniel Levy generally. Some people will look at it and say he's a brilliant negotiator, he's paid value for money, whilst also spending, the 6th highest amount of money in the Premier League and top 10 in Europe. I'm assuming top 10 in Europe. I haven't got that official number in front of me. And so the guy is like a steady Eddie, right? He doesn't overpay, and that's a good thing. That is a good thing. And we're not responsible for the inflation in the market. Tottenham are not, shouldn't feel guilty on any level about the inabilities for other teams to keep up, because we're not responsible. And you can point to our rivals for the ones that that either are bad at negotiating or are just willing to pay over the top for players that they want and screw the rest. Or you could look at it and say, well, Daniel Levy spending £20 million, £19 million average on a player. If he was more willing to speculate, more willing to pay over the odds, we could have had a better team and been more successful. So Daniel Levy, whether you like the fact that he's a good negotiator or you don't like the fact that what some consider good negotiation skills, others consider a lack of willingness to speculate, is either a good thing or a bad thing for the club. For me, obviously, I think it's a good thing that you're not overpaying for players. And when you look at that list of teams that have crept into that top 8 that I called out, and you look at teams like Everton and Aston Villa, categorically that spending money, whilst it might be on some level correlated to success within football, the teams at the top have got the most valuable squads, and the vast majority of those teams have had to pay for those squads and paid over the odds for them, right? So you could make the argument that success and spending is intrinsically linked. But then you could also look at those two teams, Aston Villa and Everton. Everton, who spent 600 million, I think, in the last 7 years, and almost got relegated last season, and then went into breach of FFP. No correlation. Aston Villa, in the last 3 windows, have spent a ridiculous amount of money. A lot of people at the start of this summer were saying Aston Villa are a team to look out for, a team to watch. They've got a hungry young manager, they've got a chairman who backs his manager, buying all sorts of great players, Coutinho, etc. And Aston Villa right now are in the top 3 favourites to get relegated, or 4th favourite to get relegated. So, you know, for every example on the one hand, there's a counter example on the other. I think that there is a correlation, but there's certainly no causation. And it's just an interesting article, I thought, that highlights on some factual basis, as long as you trust the valuations that the report purports to know, which I don't know how they know that. I don't know how they figured that out. I'll put the link in the description so that you can read through it as well. Maybe it says it in the report and I missed it. I was glancing over it, but it does give you some kind of insight into what sort of chairman we have. You know, whether you call him like a mean negotiator, I don't know. He didn't underpay really, did he? 7 million quid. He got the job done, and Tottenham have progressed. You know, for me, I've said it a million times, I know a lot of people feel like the only metric of success that matters is cups. I feel differently. I feel like the best barometer to see where your team has come from and where you are is to look at your average league position over a long enough sample size of data, and then plot it on a graph and figure out the trend line. And for me, Tottenham's general trend has been moving in the right direction, albeit there's been a couple of setbacks from probable overachievement, like in the 2018-19 season. So, I don't know. I don't want to start the Levy debate really, it was just an interesting topic. I thought I'd call it out. Love to get your thoughts, guys, on whether or not Daniel Levy should look at that and think, if only I'd had my same negotiating hat on, but rather than doing it for £19 million players, we were doing it for £30 million players, then we'd be at that next level. Or whether he looks at that and thinks, hell yeah, ain't nobody better than me at getting blood from a stone. I thought it was interesting. That's it for me today. Like I say, look out for my stream. I should do one at 3 o'clock-ish, I think, today. And I'd love to see you there. I do want to show you some interesting stats and facts about the Leicester game, and then talk with you as a community in the comments about what do we do now? Looking forward to the Arsenal game. Do we, as I said yesterday, do we potentially move to a 3-5-2 to start the game, and then, you know, be creative and yet solid in the first half, and then if the opportunity arises, move to a 3-4-3 in the latter stages of the second half, where Tottenham, you know, maybe should be able to get more confidence and stranglehold on the game. There's so many things to think about. It's a massive game in 2 weeks' time, less than 2 weeks. I'd love to discuss it with you this evening or this afternoon. Like, share and subscribe, guys. Appreciate all of the engagement that you've been doing on the channel recently. It's really helping get those numbers up, and I'm really enjoying seeing so many new faces and new names in the comments below the video. So keep it up, say hi if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next one. Like, share and subscribe, and as always, guys, as always, bye bye.